So okwakhathesi ngizayethula uDr Malinga, yena usebenza ese-Public Policy and Research Institute of Zimbabwe. Bekhonapho labo eFidelity, nguye ozasincedisa namuhla esilida i-conversation esifuna ukuba layo namhlanje ngendaba ye-decommissioning of ama-small power stations. Sikhangele ukuthi sibuyele action plan because sike sahlangana, but namhla mele sibuyele action plan ukuthi so what, sesike saxoxisana, namhla sizaxoxisana, umhlangano uphela. What's the way forward as the stakeholders of Bulawayo? Siyabonga ukuthi le council ikhona. Last time I remember sadiscussa ngendaba ye-ownership ukuthi we're not sure ukuthi who is the current owner of power station. Namhla silaye uCity Council uzasichasisela kuhle, sithemba lama-councillors ethu njoba ayethunyiwe last time izakhamizi labo bazasincedisa in that regard ukuthi is-establish ukuthi kanti maybe sikhuluma ngento vele ngaso yezakhamizi kumbe sikhuluma ngento yezakhamizi, izakhamizi zingaconsultanga on the matter, lokuthi ungaba le-privatization, what are the effects koBulawayo in the economy yakoBulawayo in terms of employment yabantu, in terms of general development. We want to interrogate those issues in today's meeting, hoping ukuthi sizaba le conversation enhle namhlanje, sikhame up lento ecacayo ezasilida njengoBulawayo ukuthi sisuka lapha siya ngaphi. So ngizayithula khathesi uDr Malinga. Okunye futhi ngizacela ukuthi nxa sokuyiplenary ozabe khuluma abasithathela indaba abesite bacela ukuthi ozabe khuluma umbono wakhe ebuye phambili ukuthi uzwakale, ungaswakali lapha kuphela. Siyabona ukuthi iroom yethu incane, but sifuna kuzwakala uBulawayo konke, kuzwakale iZimbabwe yonke, because they are live streaming, ukuthi abanye labo bejoine i-conversation, ukuthi kungabi yi-fight yethu sodwa but kube yi-fight kaBulawayo yonke, even lo Zimbabwe yonke, ngoba ngabe kwenzakala koBulawayo namuhla kuzayenzakala kwenye indawo. What are the effects in terms of power supply endaweni nxa ukuthi ama-power stations amancane decommissionwa, izakhamizi zingaconsultanga njalo? What are the effects? Ngaba le challenge ku-national grid, i-power station yona leyo ibisisiza ngani, nxa singelayo sizaba yini njengoBulawayo? So ngizalifisela ukuthi sibe lo mhlangano omuhle kakhulu. Dr Malinga, you may come forward.
Sabonani, lengxole lesenjalo ukufundisa. So namhlanje ngizafundisa abakhulu sibili. I don't know ukuthi my class ngayikhweza right. I think ube sechilo uAbigail ngizazama ukuthi ngithi fahla ngodaba lolu olwe decommissioning of Bulawayo Thermal Power Station or power plant. I think nxa sikhangele indawo leyi siyazigqaja singoBulawayo. Ngoba ukuthi sithola i-description yokuthi kontuthu ziyathunqa is because of that power plant, angithi. So it was first established in 1947, so meaning it's 77 years old. And i-description kaBulawayo njengoba ngitshilo kantuthu khona kukhanya uba le power plant lana meant ama-industries ethu could get power, angithi. That is why it was established. But established again in 1947, City Council was the original owner of that particular plant. But at the same time, ngo-1947 ya-commission okokuqala, ngo-1957 ya-commission okwesibili. And then in 1987, yasifakwa on a lease, iliswa to Zesa. So ngingazi, I think isibesike saxoxisana lezakhamizi a week or two back ukuthi indaba le ownership kukhanya sibili kule problem ukuthi who is the owner of that power plant. But from my suggestions ngizwisisa from izakhamizi was we also need to interrogate the idea of ukuthi nxa sikhangela ama-title deeds singawathola yini ku-City Council. Ukwenzela ukuthi nxa kuliwa ngodaba lolu, already it has been to the courts, angithi. But unfortunately we know ukuthi ilizwe lethu how things operate, yabiselwa back to ZPC, that power plant. But nxa sikukhansisa again, we also need to establish and have evidence ukuthi kanti ngobani vele who are owning that particular plant. And at the same time, these are the ideas aselethwe izesa ehamba lo hulumende ukuthi why do we need to decommission i-plant yethu le. Since March 2023, i-plant yethu le yakobulawayo has been producing 0 megawatts. So meaning ayisebenzi totally. But yona originally when it was commissioned in 1947, yai producer 90 megawatts. So meaning it was contributing to the national grid. But nxa yona inga refurbishwa, it has the potential to produce 120 megawatts, angithi? So yiyo i-contribution engayenzwa yi-power plant yethu leyi. But for years and years it has been abandoned, meaning i-equipment ekhona phana is now old. Meaning konke nje sesilakho khona phana vela kusasebenzi. And at the same time ngawukhanisa kuhla ngisho kule railway line laphana. And that railway line meant i-power station they needs coal, angithi? Kudala u-railways wethu esasebenza, i-coal yayisuke wange izo ensure ukuthi this power plant works. But for years and years nxa lani likunanzisa kuhle kukalutshwana these days uhlangane lesitimela. Yamangalisa ungahlangana laso. So meaning if the railway line is no longer working, then it becomes difficult to get coal. Secondly, there has not been sufficient support to ensure ukuthi i-power plant yethu le receives i-coal that would ensure siyathola something. But at the same time, this is where enye argument has been brought in by uhulumende ukuthi we are now moving to what we call renewable energy. Meaning sesihlukana lama fossil fuels, lokhu ocoal kuthiwa ama fossil fuels. Meaning there is no need for us to continue burning these fossil fuels kuthiwa aya contributor to climate change. Bakhona abayizwisisayo lapha climate change. Kumbe ibala liyazwakala kodwa ukuthi concept ithini kuyakhutha lapha lalapha. So this has been the argument esilethwe nguhulumende ukuthi let's decommission because asisafuni to continue burning ama fossil fuels. The cabinet recently reached a decision ukuthi by 2025 we do not need to be importing electricity from amanye amazwe. But nxa siwukhanyisa kuhle 2025 is next year ngithi. At the present moment we have got a shortfall in terms of electricity that we produce within the country. Remember, sesi rely mostly on 2 places, iKaripa, leWange. Remember, Wange now has got to unit 7 and 8. And then especially le Karipa yet, which has been known for hydroelectricity. But I think we have also seen reports recently that iKaripa can no longer produce enough. And then units 7 and 8 singathaba, but spinde singathabi. Remember, unit 7 and 8 has been developed by the Chinese. Ikhona yini into ebanjwa umChina isale inhle. Ngibalewari nxa mbona ubulawayo wethu omuhle uyadlula ibuilding kuthiwa ya refurbish uthi ya kuyakhanya sokusiba ngcono uthi uyangena so yi-Chinese shop. Ayisuka kwenzakala khathesi. I-electricity yethu unit 7 and 8 unfortunately it's meant to supply electricity to our mines. That is the idea. Ikhona inye iron plant, I think isemarondera ngibingaphi, iye supplier kakhulu. Remember, mining consumes a lot of electricity. And our mining ventures in the country are increasing by the day, meaning more demand for electricity. It is unfortunate that our events now, as they are taking place, the ordinary person is affected. And the last Zimbabwe at the present moment can produce around 1.3 or 1.4 megawatts. And the demand stands at around 1.8, 1.9. Meaning between 400 to 500 megawatts siyazithenga phandle kwelizwe. And this affects us. Nxa sesikhangela ama-tariffs azabe selethwa. meaning as the residents were starting to pay more for electricity. I think there was an increase in NAMA tariffs in October. I think there's also a recent increase in January, if I'm not mistaken. And you can imagine if we're importing around 400 to 500 megawatts, the plant yet produces 120, but we're shutting it down. So here issue sesilayo kuthini wenxa sikhangele uBulawayo and its potential to produce that kind of electricity, it means there is a problem here. And the problem is this a deliberate plot to ensure Bulawayo is sabotaged? But unfortunately, it's not Bulawayo only that is affected. Even in Harare Lemnyati, they also have got these small thermal power stations and they are going to be decommissioned. So meaning azavalo. But again, kungavalwa ngapha liqalisa ukukhuluma privatization, it means Bulawayo power station at Lesley, there's a likelihood it's going to be owned by an individual. Manxa isi-ownwa ngu-individual, what is going to happen? Uzayivusa. Angayivusa i-electricity yakhona ayivusileyo, akayinika uBulawayo uzayithengisa. So meaning so already there is now an idea of profit making. But the argument that has been advanced as well, ukuthi fossil fuels, EMA has come in and given us a certificate. Nge-station lesi ukuthi ama-emissions zethu are very low, meaning it can be able to operate. So yindaba ke zona lezi esilazo nxa sikhangele indaba yethu nale thermal power station. I think I've already touched on the issue ownership. I don't know how far, maybe nxa sesiza-deliberator as ama-councillors, how far have you gone in terms of identifying who is the owner of that power plant? Lilawo yini ama-title deeds. Manxa le institutional memory from those who were working during a period between city council lo Zesa bengasinceda yini in terms of relating the information. Yikho kuqakathekile at times ukuthi whenever you have got these discussions, record them down so that we have got evidence. You can imagine nxa sesiyabuyela ngo-1987 kutholakala ukuthi people agreed by word of mouth. Akulanto ebhalwe phansi. So meaning Bulawayo 1, it has lost money on rent. Remember, if you are leasing out, it means ubhatalwa ikwini irent angithi. So how many can imagine how much money has been lost already by the local authority in terms of leasing out that power plant? And at the same time, uBulawayo omuhle, two things have always been distinct in terms of identifying us as a city. Eyokuqala ngama-industries. Ama-industries are gone, angithi? Akusela lutho. Nxa usuyasithathela kwesithulo kusesisele siyini? Sesi-growth point. Vele sesiqalisile ngizwa ubuhlungu ngo-3rd Avenue nxa usukhona ungehamba iphotho lonke leyana shu. Right. I-thermal power station yethu leyi nxa sikhangisisa kuhle futhi uBulawayo wethu omuhle. Remember, amanzi ethu siwathola ngogetsi. So if there is no water or if there is no electricity, it means amanzi sinjani? Asilawo. Remember, we have to pump amanzi from amadamu ethu lawa ahlukeneyo ukuthi asupply amanzi lapha koBulawayo. So you are issues at esilawo. But in the past, bekuke kwaba le idea yokuthi why can't we find investors to refurbish that power plant? Angithi saqalisa sathola interest from eBotswana. Asikwazi ke khona lapho ukuthi kwahamba njani umbe kwarechwana njani akusaphumelelanga. 2, saba lamanye futhi ama-investors from India who were interested in this power plant. And I think they started around 2015 or 2016. Kwanganthwa kulokuvumelana okuthile ukuthi imali izatholakala ku refurbishwe that power plant. And unfortunately, during the process, kwasokuvuka indaba ye ownership. I think there was a struggle for almost 2 years or so, 2017 to around 2019, up until the matter was settled. But remember, nxa lisayine kwi pre-contract, it also expires over time, angithi. Then kwezwakala uZesa esethembisa ukuthi hayi kuza refurbishwa lapha koBulawayo. That was around 2021. And then 2022, a representative from the ministry waqalisa ukuthi Bulawayo is going to be decommissioned. And all of these issues are taking place behind closed doors. As residents, you have no idea that something of this nature is actually taking place. So, ngamanye issues, there is no transparency and accountability in the issue to begin with. Why are you decommissioning the plant in Bulawayo? Asikanikwa ama reasons. And now ukhanisa kuhle ama operations of Zesa bayafihla izinto zabo. It's not clear. And at the same time, Zesa went behind residents, went behind political representatives, went behind literally everyone in Bulawayo. Why are we government ukuthi let's decommission? So yoma issues on alliance law. And in 2022 or was it 2021, government was sekela this move and said, Zesa, can you try to ensure that you decommission a small thermal power station, at the same time ensure that Zesa Lani has reorganized as an entity. If you remember, Zesa, I think, is one of the most branched entities. Anto sile ZPC, sile Zesa, siphinde sibelani. Then sibelani rural electrification kuthiwa yini. So you can imagine how many. So yama issues on analysis la ukuthi it's one company but it's subdivided, and those subdivisions continue again as subdivisions within them. And at the same time, from my consultations with the information, they were saying Zesa is spending a lot from outsourcing abantu. So meaning power plant yethu le kuyadinga abantu abaphandle to come and work. But at the same time, abantu abadingwayo, they are very incompetent. They go and ask ama workers eZesa ukuthi kanti lokhu kwenziwa njani. And unfortunately, those companies that are outsourced are actually owned by laba abaphezulu eZesa. So meaning ubugwelegwele buphezulu. Imali is just moving within. And abantu beZesa kade are saying the company is broke. But the first thing abakhala ngayo yi T&S yabo. Nxa isi broke so nsiye wange intravela njani. And at the same time, we also need to understand ukuthi ama workers alapha were also not consulted. They were just told either uye wange mbuye Karipa kumbe you lose your job. So these are the issues SSLAW. Now, in the research that we were doing, we also wanted to identify, since there's nigili background, Zesa, decommissioning it, we also want to identify what implications does this have on our residents. We need to understand our socio-economic repercussions of such a move in terms of the decommissioning of the plant. We need to understand that there are now going to be frequent power cuts. And it says lose 120 megawatts yethu la. To contribute to the national grid, but as long as this plant is not refurbished, it means we are going to experience frequent power cuts. And these frequent power cuts means we are going to experience some job losses. Akona companies, industries that rely on power for our services. Even abantu abazisebenzayo, they also rely on the power for the jobs that they do. So in meaning now ngasela power, akusela msebenzi. And at the same time, we also need to understand, since 2024, the world works on power, on technology. And if you do not have power, it means as I want even it gets in network yaqalisa ukuthi. So you can imagine nxa kulezimali adomela uchaya idiri khona lapho ungasela Zesa antu uyaqaphuka. But these are the issues that we have. And we're also going to experience some water supply issues. Bulawayo wethu is dependent on water pumped supply. So meaning if amanzi ethu are not able to reach us, the idea is that is power supply. And Bulawayo, unfortunately, agala dam lakhe phakathi. So we rely on our reservoirs that are outside the city. So yiwo amanye issues esilawo. Maybe ngisasedabeni lolo lamanzi. One of the issues as well for the decommissioning is that akula manzi. But siphinde sizibuza ukuthi amanzi njani silokhami ukhami wethu lwana vele akasetshenziswa. Akula an initiative that has been done to draw that water from Khami. It's unfortunate ukuthi uBulawayo we always have got this idea ukuthi izinto zikhona but somewhere asifiki. If you remember Zambezi water project, it's been there since 1913 if I'm not mistaken. So it's already over 100 years. Kuloko kuyi project on the pipeline. Then kwathiwa no sizalenzela uGwayi Shangani is the first phase. Gwayi Shangani has been a project that has been there since 2004. Sesiku 2024 kuthiwa izaphela. I think we had reports ukuthi sizaphela. But I doubt we still need to give it another 3 to 5 years. That is the first phase. So the issue on LA is also another one that has been used ukuthi uBulawayo akalamanzi. But we have got other reservoirs that we can actually draw water from. So it's also another issue that we need to understand. We also need to understand ukuthi so decommissionwa, there is a high likelihood that we lose our identity as a city. Remember, even lawo majiva nabehlabela untuthu ziyathunqa was the apt description that was given to the city. So this is a landmark that we pride ourselves njengobulawayo. So nxa singavalwa it means one way or the other akade kusidescribe kusenza lathi siziqhenye kuzavalwa. So it's also important. Remember, a landmark has got a significance that we can actually be able to tell our children and our grandchildren ukuthi uBulawayo kukontuthu. So they also need to see ukuthi kati intuthu esikhuluma ngazo yiziphi. And if you remember at some point there was the idea yokuthi let's destroy these cooling towers. But it was opposed by ama residents ukuthi why would you want to destroy ama cooling towers lawa kuyiyo as identifyayo as uBulawayo. So we are going to lose that historical landmark. We also need to understand ukuthi if singavala le plant, it means our tariffs are going to increase. Sizabe sibhadala more for electricity. I think in the Southern African region, kungabe kuyithi esidurayo nge-electricity. At the present, our tariffs are now high. And if you consider all these issues, because it's less shortage of electricity, we are importing more. But importing it today can actually be reduced through the running of these power stations. If they can be opened, you can imagine the contribution you. But at the present moment, we are not able to do so. And because of that, our tariffs to increase. I don't know, why is this increase? Does it even consult? Kuphonga uthiwa sokungezelelo libona kuphela ngenotice ukuthi igets lethu selikhwelile. So we are likely to experience that. And also sizabona closure of our businesses. I think we have already seen our businesses. Remember, our businesses they also thrive on the availability of power. It's unfortunate, I think I highlight ukuthi our industries we have been turned into church venues. Nxa uhamba lapha sokungama church wodwa. These are industries that used to thrive at some point. And we have got centralization of some of these industries that we had. How do you have CSC moving to Harare? But it's the same CSC originate uyelenkomo eziningi elizweni. So yikho suka la ungakuzwisisa ama headquarters has to be shifted our railways to Harare, and Bulawayo was really active. Remember, we had that line from Ovik Forces Bulawayo iphinde continue bambe kubo Bait Bridge le. So we had all these ideas, but unfortunately everything was centralized in Harare. So what we're going to experience is a closure of more businesses lapha Bulawayo as long as we do not have enough power supply. Okunye futhi idea ye renewable energy. It's unfortunate that at times our policy makers bathathele ezinye izinto phezulu. Renewable energy needs a lot of investment, one. It needs availability of resources. It also needs skills and personnel. Nxa sikhangela, even globally, as we go for our debates and discussions on climate change issues, one of them is that renewable energy is a process that takes time. But we have tried elizweni. If you remember, the solar power project lane Gwande yakwadliwa izimali. It was a good initiative to have a solar farm that would actually supply electricity to the whole of Gwanda. Gwanda ibe off grid, iphume from Zesa in terms of its connections, etc. But that is already a failed project. And you can imagine if sizakhuluma about renewable energy, it takes a lot. And it takes time, it takes a lot of resources, investment, it needs skills. So in renewable energy, we need to look at the issues like solar power, we need to look at the biogas, we also need to look at the wind power. This is renewable energy. But is there anything that shows us that we are moving in the direction of renewable energy? Akula sign, not even. And it's unfortunate that across the entire continent, we actually have got the sun. We are chisa lapha Africa. But how many projects have you seen where we establish our solar farms? And the only entities that are establishing these solar farms are mining companies. I think now say Gwanda, is it Blanket Mine? Ungakona after the window I think a Blanket. There's a huge solar farm there. And what we can't it power the whole of Gwanda?
In fact, the whole mine is off the grid.
Off the grid. But now panels can't they power the whole of Gwanda? They can. But because we do not have these initiatives, lo Bulawayo singakwanisa ukuthi siqalise such an initiative, invest in these solar farms. But unfortunately, akukayenzakali. So renewable energy as an idea is going to take us a long time to get there. So yiyo amanye issues on alawa esilawo. And then our experience is further deindustrialization. Meaning already our industries are also feeling the pressure. They are not making any profits. Power supply, meaning they're incurring more losses than profits. So, and we are also going to fail to attract our investors. Remember, our investors are always they are profit driven more than anything. So, how do you invest? One, mans. Two, markets. Three, road infrastructure is the worst. So you are my issues allow me to work. Four, the only mall is Bulawayo Center. That is the only mall. It's Laila. But Ungahamba Harare, it's always a building after building. I think it's all the same level. Chale Ungafika see this kwame won't and la lutola. But unfortunately, Bulawayo is stuck. At the same time, Bulawayo can't expand further because it's gombolozele ngumguza. So our issues at vele lapha Bulawayo maningi. And abanye they are suggesting spatial planning it instead of expanding, let's go upwards. Faka nama flats. That is what others are saying. Because that's la land. So the only way to maximize on development is to go upwards. So these are my issues. And when you look at the current state here, Bulawayo, do you think we can attract any investor? So my issues on Lesley, apart from the power issue, already that as a city we are not looking like an investment destination. So you are my socio-economic implications as it concerns the issue thermal power station. Ngizaphelela khona lapho kwakhathi esingakangena uma recommendations ngingazi ukuthi kungabe kule mbuzo kumbe ama editions sixoxisane kabanzi ngalolu daba.
Okwakhathesi thina siqalisa kulumnyaka sehle sagcila kuleyo ndawo.
akusadingeki convener ukuthi singene kuma avenues amaningi azasikhohlisa ngoba okwenzakalayo ukuthi silama councilor la ama-councilor lawa sanda kungena e-chambers besanda kungena nje abanye bangena bethathwa luthuli lwamaduku ukuthi agijimayele lami kahle nilandele abanye bangena belenjongo befisa ukuthi ngingasake ngibe ku-chambers ngibambele indaba abanye bathi hey ngenxa ukuthi kuyiwale lami kahle ngiyefika kodwa ke nxa ngawo ungena ule njongo laphana e-chambers wakwazi ukuthi ngingenele ukuthi Bulawayo iyarojwa yi-central government umbele Zesa kwezinye izinto ezithize ezinjenge-power station yako Bulawayo uyabe ungene ule njongo thina ke sesifikile kulolo daba amakhansila ngingazi lina ngoba engikubonayo kunengi kuside yamakhansila mbona maybe basazicleana bona lokuthi bakudojwa amaphepha kwenziweni kuma major programs kukhanya ngani maybe abakafiki injongo indaba iyo leyo madoda indaba kayisikho kudobha amaphepha kuphela indaba ngama properties ethu awako Bulawayo asemzini wako Bulawayo sesiwafuna thina back izakhamisi eziwafuna ama project azo i-power station yako Bulawayo sesiyifuna amakhansila angikwazi ukuthi engxeye silihambela phambili maybe i-hand over take over ayizange ilinyenyezele ukuthi i-power station liyana yabole kwizesa kodwa aluba balinyenyezele ukuthi i-power station liyana yabole kwizesa lalilakho ukuthi libuza ukuthi ibolekiwe nje izesa yenzani ngayo ibekile kumbe ayisebenzisa ngoba nxa uboleka indlu yomuntu ukuthi uhlale kiyo kumbe i-project yomuntu kumbe i-factory yomuntu kumele uyisebenzise kumbe imota yami uyiboleka kumele uyisebenzise ngingabona usuyibekela phana aze yapontsha ngiyabuya ngizoyithatha ngithathe lebhuku lami ngihambe ngiyayisebenzisa mina mnikazi ngingayiyekeli ife lina ama-councillors yini abanikazi bakabulawayo khathesi silikhangeleyo sicela lingayekeli izinto zethu zichitheka ama-councillors amanengi achithe izinto zethu zakobulawayo baya up to an extent ukuboleka izesa i-power station yakobulawayo hence ibulawayo kaselakho ukukhiqiza amagetsi isithembe uhulumende ukuthi abakhiqizela amagetsi nxa ihulumende ingaenelisi ukuthi isikhiqizele amagetsi thina nge-120 yethu kilowatts kumele sibe silokhu sidondobhela sihamba bijana siya phambili kungcono kungabi kungabi lalutho yikho ke okukhona lapha amakhansila ngiyakwazi ukuthi into ehlupha amakhansila yi-1 ngicela ukuthi makhansila namhla lama residents sihambeni inyawo lunye ngokufuna i-power station leyo lingenza isplit lesihlala ngisibona lisenze eChambers singachithekani nxa sile njongo asibambeni injongo yinye siqondeni leyo nto siyenze siyiqede sibeke okunye eceleni sisuke siye kokunye ibulawa izime ngenyawo zayo yekelani isplit yekelani ukukhangelana ngamehlo ukuthi sibani bani ungaphi uvela ngaphi injongo le ivela le indaba ivela le asiyitshayeleleni phansi manini ndawonye akusemalanga mangaki izakhamizi zakobulawayo njengoba sesilitshelile ngento ye-power station useyifuna akusemalanga mangaki singasukumanga same estiridini salibiza sathi hey asimatsheni sonke siyefuna i-power station yethu kuzesa lani makhansila lama MP sonke abakobulawayo asilichi asifuna umuntu ozakhangela umvathi mina ngwephathe nje sonke mele tsini lapha because as long as you belong into which political party kona ngapho but you are still the owner of Bulawayo, you are still the leader of Bulawayo. You have to look after the interests of Bulawayo. So siyadicela ke bo mama na bo baba ma city fathers and city mothers, city brothers and city daughters ukuthi sibambeni into yethu lana sesiyifuna we are serious about it. Yikho nje uke wezwa uCovina ubaba uMalinga ethintathinta mbijana ngokuthi ke yona ama title deeds ayo selike lawabuza yini ngoba nxa ungezwa sesibuza ama title deeds sesibuza incwadi zento yethu ukuthi wona akhona yini liwabeke ngaphi. First thing ukuthi Zesa sinikana umlando namhla suka la ukuthi sazi ukuthi ama title deeds e-power station akhona yini abekwe ngaphi. Siyakwazi ukuthi bathi belisa labanika ayisina ama-councillors bakhona babuya kuqala ibaba banika lina linyathele ngemuva kodwa ke umlando ngowenu bathe enyathelo udakinathile babuzeni bonabo lilakho lila injongo liyakwanisa ukuvula ama-minutes lipheruza lisiya ama-minutes amuva liwalandela kuhle lidinga ukuthi ngubani owanika iZesa i-power station ngoba abezesa usoze bakutshele ukhulumile uconvener lapho ukuthi abanye abaphathi kuba ama-manager abevela kwezinye indawo khatshana le ezoplantwa lapho ukuthi azomanager into yako Bulawayo hence evele ngazi lutho. Injongo yokuthi kuplantwe umuntu ongazi lutho lapha ukuthi umuntu lowana nxa ebhayiza wena you are getting away with it. Yikho libona nje kufakwa iziphamaso zabantu ezingakwanisi ukulandela izinto ngenxa ukuthi nxa ebhayiza wena uyathatha nxa ebhayiza wena uyadla yinjongo yakho kodwa ungafaka umuntu obonayo uza kuhlupha ngoba uzabuza ukuthi kanti lapha ke don't cross the limit, you are here, you have to wait here. Yikho ke injongo ikini asifuni ukuthi silandele ama-avenue amanengi because ngiyakwazi mina ukuthi kade sibulawa sikhuluma into ezinenginengi ungakhangela lapha amanye ama-agenda esiwenzayo kukhansile amanye ngawasebenzi kufana lokuthi kube lezinye izinto eziplantwayo izinto lezi eziplantwayo lizinanzelele zizama ukuvala imehlweni ukuthi likhangele zona kodwa indaba ihamba into ihamba isonakala kulento ezincane kakhulu ezicakileyo kakhulu engingafisi lokuthi ngakhuluma ngazo idote enzakala koBulawayo akube lama subcommittee amalutshwana akhangela ngengcekeza zakoBulawayo kodwa abaningi babe le thrust into the situation bakhangela umumo lo singapoliticize into zako 5 Avenue lezana ukuthi akulabantu abachaya ijambanja umramba thina lwana oswabuyayo sesizithatha siba political luhlupho lwakoBulawayo kumele silu-eradicate nge-one day lo lya kodwa singagcila kikho asisoze sibone injongo yethu. Ngiyabonga baba.
Le council nayo yama ukubhadala uZesa amagetsi asaply council so sikhuluma kanje indaba le isecourt iZesa i-OI council ngama-realities e-power station i-council layo OI Zesa ukungabhadala amagetsi abuyayo then uhulumende wasebhalela i-city council lo ngonyaka ka-2022 uhulumende sebhalela i-council wathi iZesa isithole udona kumbe ufanda ufuna ukuresuscitate i-power station so ngokunjalo sicela lekhulumisana laye with the view of selling that power station to Zesa. Ezikhansile naleyo ayikhona sathi kasingeke senze leso sivumelwano singakhulumanga labanikazi be-power station okuyizakhamizi zakoBulawayo. Senze resolution ku-council ukuthi each councillor kahambe ewadini yakhe ayeconsulta ukuthi siyithengisele na iZesa i-power station kumbe senze i-joint venture kumbe siyalelayo ingekho. Sahamba uwadi 8 mina ngahamba izakhamizi kawadi 8 zathi kakube i-joint venture singathengisi. Angazi uma kunkomo kumbe ukhansela ekhona leso sikhathi uwadi 11 kazange ayenze umhlangano njalo na. Bathi umhlangano sayenza singamakhansela sesiyahlanganisa-ke okuphume uma-wadi wonke okwaba yi-majority okwaba kuningi ukuthi izakhamizi zakoBulawayo zathi 1 kayingathengiswa kodwa kasenzeni i-joint venture. Sisenza i-joint venture uhulumende wayethe siyekhulumisana-ke layo iZesa. Sasesinika-ke uTown Clerk wedolobho ilungelo lokuthi ahambe ayekhulumisana leZesa ngamayelana lodaba oluvela kuhulumende kunye lokuphuma kwezakhamizi. So lolo daba is still ongoing kodwa ngizokuthiwa izisa isikhalo ukuthi lapho eyayithole khona ifunding yokuthi ilungise lapha ukhanya ifunding leyo izaze ihambe. Mbona ingani ngamafitshane phakathi kohlelo, that is where we are. Sakhonsulta izakhamizi zathi kayingathengiswa kwenzeni i-joint venture, kodwa lokho kusakholiswana layo lezesa. Osokuqakathekile-ke ukuthi izakhamizi zisinike insukuntu zigqugquzele ukuthi sibuyele siye kuthini kuzesa, bafuna kuthiweni ngezesa power station yakhe. Kulama issues amaningi ngayo njengoba nje okuningi kusecourt. Ma udaba lusecourt okuningi asineke sikukhulume, siyabotshwa umthetho. Kodwa lathi okumele sikhangele kule sentimental value elikhulume ngayo. Ukuthi njengabantu bakwaBulawayo kuthiwa umduduzi yakho sithini ngakho ukuthi kule sentimental value nge-power station yakho. Okwesibili, kule issue yokuthi must salvage something from i-power station yakho ngoba ngeke sikwenze kube commercial, is another option nale. Then the third issue, as we stand here, kasikwazi futhi ukuthi ikusimo bani i-power station ukufaka ukuthi like bathi funa kayisamanga kahle. So kungenzakala naletha ivumela nayo ukuthi i-joint venture isikhathi iminyaka lokhu sizama ukuyilungisa singasazi something. But what I'm saying, these are the issues really as residents of Bulawayo which we should look at. When this advice, there are councillors. Some councillors, they are representatives of the people. So in order to my the power station, the FISA ukuthi kubambeke njani. So sizachiya ke ngobekini ukuthi lisitshele kodwa esakwenzayo ngo-2022 amawadi amaningi athi bafuna senze i-joint venture. Sile resolution yesit-council enjenganaleyo. Nxa namhlanje lingasinika omunye umbono, siyakwanisa ukubuyela ezi-councillors and rescind that resolution. Senze i-resolution elizasinika yona. I-issue lesi ikhangele holistically without emotions but being factual. You can visit to Kalena. Realistic, sibe factual. And sibe kwazi thina ezibulawayo ukuthi sifunani ngayo. Sentimental value, kumbe we salvage something from it, kumbe sifuna lawo McDonald's wathwaya buya resuscitate isebenze igetsi iphume khona laphana kuyithi. We are the ones now, we should guide the councillors. Ama-councillors kasazi everything, but we are representing you as residents. Isiphume, engasiphume ukuthi siyetshintsha i-resolution esikhona yokuthi senze i-joint venture, we shall go and rescind that resolution. Indaba yeKami Dam, amanzi eKami Dam. Most of us councillors esazalwa sakhulelwa lapha, indaba kaKami ungakhuluma ngayo uyabuthinta ama-emotions abantu abaningi. But now as city fathers as well and city mothers, sicela lisigayide. Sikhuluma ukuthi amanzi ashort, sikhuluma ukuthi i-industry isebenzisana lawa amanzi which is treated for e-consumption ukuthi kurana ama-industry indaphinda short. Sithini ngamanzi avela kuKami? Sicela lisigayide kube i-debate for another day esizadebata ngayo. Lanxa mina wami umbono as an individual ngithi amanzi lana kasiwalungiseni ayisebenze industry angabi ngayo consumption singanathi ezindlini kodwa siwenzele i-industry ukwenzela ukuthi i-industry ingasebenzisa amanzi athithiweyo okumele siwanathe ekhaya. That's the debate for another day. Esifisa ukuthi lisikhokhele njengezakhamizi eziyo-councillors thina singahambi phambili. Siyabonga, thank you so much.
You know, as Unkomo said, there are some projects that you concentrate on, while there are some, as where one man is safe. Thank you to BPRA. BPRA saw that advert, because you know, when you do a project, there is advert for objections and what. BPRA saw that advert, and BPRA went on to oppose the renewal of license. It then drew attention. BCC. I must admit that it was a harm that time. It drew attention. BCC. Because it gave them power to generate power, but it did not give them authority over the property. So then now we then started to check. So let's discover those people with fake ticket. Where then BCC then jointly together with BPRA, we oppose in renewal land. That is the reason why the investor of India ran away. It's not that because of these other issues that I mentioned. The other thing, I think councillors need to relook into a joint venture. Because here we are with a lodger, Zesa and Zesa Power Station. He has decided to wind up himself property. Because the joint venture was mainly with, as we were saying, with a partnership with Zesa. But I say, so partner so now we need to get a new mode of. So I think this is what I want.
Mina ngizabalindele imibuzo angiyikulandisa okuningi kakhulu. Ngiyezwa indaba ekhulunywayo ukuthi there are few councillors abathengwayo yibo abale power yini bona labo ngoba kukhanya ngani there are few compared to 29 councillors or so. Bona labo yibo abathengwayo betshintshe wonke ama resolutions abephumele zakhamizi yini ukuthi kungaze kudlule kuthathwe i-thermal power station yethu inikwe uhulumende ngendlela engayisiyo na. Then bese ngibuya embuzweni engithanda ukuthi nguzwisise okulamandla yikuphi phakathi kwe-act kahulumende lama title deeds. Ngoba yikho khona lokho sifanele sikuzwisise okule power yikuphi ngama title deeds kumbe i-act efakwe nguhulumende. Angathola impendulo khona lapho enqe kungasincedisa kakhulu. Ngizobuya futhi ukuthi ama councillors nxa ngizwile kuthiwa i-issue le yakhe yapresentwa yahamba yaba se court ngo-2022 then namhlanje ngo-2024. So kufakiwe 2022 kudlula 2023 ama councillors ngizwe kakhulu uDeputy Mayor ekhuluma ngokuthi sicela lisithume. Uyabuthumani njengoba bathunywa ngo-2022 bayahlala bathula bathi zwi phezu kwendaba yankhona up to today kwadlula umnyaka wonke nka babenga ama-councillors wayengazange phushe indaba yankhona bethunyiwe bafuna ukuthunywa futhi ukuthi ahambani liyebuza indaba bengahambi bebuza ngababuza vele last year ngavele into leyo vele isiphelile. Then bese ngicina ngombuzo owodwa ngizwe ku-presentation yakho Dr. Malinga laphana ukhuluma ukuthi we are moving from fossil energy something of that sort and ukuthi akathi uhange unit 8 lo 7 bona basebenzisani sebesebenzisa uranium or something yini engelantuthu yini ngoba lapha okuyikho kwenza ukuthi lapha kuthwele ifanele isuswe kuyini. So ngicela khonapho nje sizama ukuthi sizwisise umbe indlela nje okufuna ukuthatha kuphela ngoba nxa ukuthi le commission last year phela yezela ukuzendeza but le decommissioning ukuthi hayi vele we are moving away from fossil energy. So ngizama ukuzwisisa maybe engxenye wanke sebesebenzisa uranium angikwazi ngiyabonga.
Umuntu uloje endlini yomuntu awungeke wayithi indlu le isindala ungabona wena ongasafuni uyabise uyaphuma uchiya umnikazi endlini yakhe yiwe ngikwaziyo. So ungabona uloja endlini yomnikazi usuqalisa ukuthi into lesindala usugangile. So besicela angilako kunengi ngeke ngakhuluma last time kwaba kunengi into engicelayo ukuthi kayibuyele kumnikazi we property u city council njalo vele kungabi lo muntu odecidela umnikazi ukuthi ngifuna ukuthi le yenzwe ngendlela enje engasiyo umnikazi. Ngiyabonga uformer mayor lapho ukhulumile ukuthi hayi lalo muntu wayefuna ukwenza khona waye4J i-license ukuthi bayawukhanga. So ke mbonani akilawo amaningi into engitsho ukuthi ngawuyibuyele ngaphi ku city council ngibe sensithi khona lokho kunye sikuzwileyo ukuthi kulamanye ama resident avumelana ukuthi ngakuyokuba bayosebenza ndawembe hayi thina kithi ewadi thina ngaleso sikhathi azange sizwe into enjalo angazi kwamanye amawadi ambonani yikwe ngakutsho ukuthi iproperty ika city council bayibuyele ku city council yabo.
Mhlawumbe mina Ngizaba nempendulo kule unit 7 and 8 eWange. If you remember quite well, iWange is one of our biggest fossil fuel burners in the country. It's reliant on coal. Nxa thina kukhuluma ku discourse climate change, we've been advised as a country to close it down. But unfortunately, Sesilo Unit 7 and 8 are continue. If you remember, mining has got gases underneath. So there's a likelihood that at some point it's going to explode. If you remember, Jobek is built phansi kwakule wenela ngithi. And the cause agcina sesibona egoli sokusiwa phansi. Because the gases are belokhe so gcina sosenza combustion. Unfortunately, sisebenzisa unit 7 and 8 le coal yethu naleyi esisebenzayo. And it's unfortunate that nxa sikhangelisa kuhle indaba lezi, we tend to be hypocrites. Ukuthi uzafuna ukuvala iBulawayo efuna icoal but usebenzisa the same coal ku unit 7 and 8 instead of extending the assistance lawe usupply coal to iBulawayo, and iBulawayo ama emissions ethu are very low as compared to iWange. So yiyo ama issues lawa esilawo. I think yikho khona lokho esingathi siyakusebenzisa. Okunye mhlawumbe ama councillors bengazikhulumela endabeni yokuthi laba abacorruptwayo imali banengi ukudlula laba abangacorruptiyo. Ngingazi ke khona lapho njengoba umama echila ukuthi imali impande yesono. But there's one thing that I'm actually going to say. It's unfortunate that abantu have taken these positions as employment instead of being of service. The unfortunate part. So I think labo bengaphendula umama esincedisa lapha ekhokhela.
Okay.
Abadala bayakhuluma bakhulumile ukuthi akhona amakhansila athengwayo angathengwayo. Engingakutsho ukuthi sithe sifunga mhla ka-23 August sathembisa ukubana sizamela uBulawayo, sizathunywa sigijime kuBulawayo singamakhansila, sizithunywa zikaBulawayo. Ngakho engikuthembisayo lengikubonayo ukubana amakhansila akhona kwakhathesi sithunyiwe, angikaboni amagwelegwele. Hayi lingabuya njalo sizabakhumbuza ngoba kuqhakathekile ukuthi ikufunga esakwenzayo ukuthi samele uBulawayo ngobuqotho siqhubeke sikwenza. Esikuthembisayo ukubana sizamela uBulawayo, impahla kaBulawayo thermal power station ekaBulawayo ngekaBulawayo njoba sichilo ama title deeds ngawethu yiproperty kaBulawayo. Okwesibili ubabubuze ngokuthi iAct kumbe ama title deeds kukupho kusebenzayo. Thina singamakhansila sikhangele ama title deeds lokuthi ipower station yana ngekaBulawayo. Mina izesa ikhona lapha kayikho, angiboni idingakala ngoba sikhuluma ngempahla kaBulawayo. Sizabatshela ukuthi abadala uBulawayo bathi indawo leyana ngeyethu. Ende sizakwenza okufunwa izakhamizi. Sizwile abadala ukuthi sayenza iconsultation. Akusaphumanga impumela amanye amawadi ayifunayo. Yikho esikwenza siBulawayo ukuthi siyabuza amawadi okuphuma kufanana amawadi amanengi yikho kuthathwayo. Amawadi amanengi like kimi ku-ward 17 bathi kasithatha impahla yethu senze i-decision yethu singuBulawayo ukuthi sifuna ukwenzani. Kodwa sadliwa ukuthi amanye amawadi ayethe senze i-partnership. Kuyinto esihamba ngayo nxa sesivumelana amawadi echiyena ngithi ngoba uBulawayo ufonywa yi-29 wards. So i-29 nxa amawadi amanengi sevumile sonke sihamba unyawo lonolo. Ngakho khathesi umlando oseleyo yikuthi thina ngendlela elikubeke ngakhona City of Bulawayo sibuyele ngokuphangisa, sihlale phansi sibhalele izesa ukuthi sithini ngempahla yethu. Ngiyabonga iBPRA ngokulimukisa lokwazisa uBulawayo leZimbabwe jikelele ukuthi kule advert athi khona leyi ebizenza ukuthi amatsotsi ayigovernment ayevele sefuna ukutsotsa iproperty yethu angaphumeleli. ngithemba lamhlanje sikhona singama-councillors silaleli ukuthi abadala bafunani. Kungaba le mali kube lana engathenjiswa kodwa uBulawayo ngowabantu asowethu. Thina singu-29 plus ama-PR asingeke sithengise uBulawayo abadala bebaningi kulathi. Ngakho ngiyathembisa ukuthi ngeke sikwenze lokho. Sizathi lisithumile njoba lichilo umhlangano olandelayo asisoze silindele ukuthi lisibize, sizalitshela ukuthi hayi sesenze lokhu sibhalela izesa ukwenzela ukuthi sibone ukuthi ingqubela phambili yangaphi, singalindeli ukurojwa size sigcine sifuna ukuthathelwa impahla yethu. Mina ngibona ukuthi government inganelisa ukuba lamandla ukudlula thina. Thina sibanengi bona government it's a group of people. So I think isilama powers ukuthi sitsho ukuthi sizayenzani nge-thermal power station yethu. Okwakhathesi ngizakuma khona lapha.
Siyezwa ama-presentations, siyezwa okwenzakalayo. Okuba buhlungu ilokho. Asisaziswanga njengabanini bedolobho ukuthi umuntu setshontsha i-title deed yethu wayenze esitsotsi. Lapho kwawufuze sihle singene emgwaqweni. Thina we promise you akusidondisi lokho. Ngoba we defend our rights as abantu bakobulawayo. Number 2, udeputy mayor ekhuluma la uthi okwaphumayo outrightly kwakuyikuthi khona kube i-joint venture. Lokho I would love to disagree. Uneta was secretary ka councillor wami former councillor uAlderman Uchunga. Sikhuluma ngento leyi. Sayala sathi kayibuyele kithi ngoba sesitsotswe kanengi ngendaba leyi. And in our caucus as chairpersons of our BPRA Ward 14, we agreed ukuthi into lesi kayibuyele kithi. But engikucelayo now, councillors, be transparent. Legally be trustworthy. Singalithuma lithatha inkulumo injalo liyeyifikisa ngale. And ubutsotsi obukhona kayisini. Ngicela ukuligeza abantu benkosi. Ubutsotsi bukuma workers ethu. Ngoba yibo bathatha ama notes. Besuka labo babhalo kwabo. Kusiya presentwa ngale kupresentwa yibo. Sebebhala into engayisiyo. Asibafakeni in checks. Ukuze into ihambe. Leyani into ngeyethu. Mina ngibona ngani lokuxoxa ngayo kade sekudlalisa isikhathi ngoba nje siloko silama title deeds ethu. Sakhuluma ngento ngeyethu. Abahambe beyokufa abantu bezesi.
Ubaba apha bese ubuya ngapha.
Ngiyabonga bakithi okokuqala ngibona ngani i-last meeting esibayelayo la. The burning question bekuyikuthi i-ownership ye-power station leyani ngaphi. I-assignment enkulu sibili yayichisa kwakumele ukuthi i-answer to that question ebuye. That answer has come. Can I share with you ukuthi thina e-councilini laphana njengoba lizu deputy mayor Patrice ukuthi ama-title deeds akhona. Lo deputy mayor former uchilo ukuthi vela ku-ownership. Mina ngingu-chairperson we-audit esikhangela ama-properties. I went down to check ukuthi ngazi ukuthi i-ownership yelokhuzeni ama-title deeds lana nga. I got a response from uchamber sec ndawonye lo mayor. Ama-title deeds and badala they are safe. Are safe. Aku strong rooms city council. So there is nothing like i-power station esihambile. So information gap bakithi ingozi kakhulu. Ngoba kwesikhathi siza attackana njengokuthi sihambile. Sesibuya ke lempendulo yokuthi i-title deed likhona. Lechiyo ngu deputy mayor kangiyali. It might have been faked but ngicela libe kwazi ukuthi i-title deed lani liyakwazi. Lawo ezindlini zenu lilawo. You cannot have i-ownership yendlu kababa lwana ngibeka mama lwana ungazuzanga the original title deed. Anxa usuyithatha i-property siba ngakho, there has to be a transfer, a change of ownership. So we are saying to you, ama-title deeds akhona, that property still belongs to Bulawayo. So underline that. And then i-recommendation engayithandayo mina as a proposed way forward lapha silapha eyayenziwa iBPRA i-consulta lamanye ama-stakeholders. I think it was a brilliant one. Lathi singama-councillors sinje phela in a way yani singama-residents. So siyalidwa in a way ngama-organizations, ama-advocacy watchdog groups anjenge-BPRA. Sithi thina, let's engage ama-experts. We need to understand the condition ye power station there. Kanti vele wathi it has been obsolete to an extent ukuthi ayisasebenzi. Ngubani? Who came up with that opinion? And how authentic is that opinion? Abantu, they will come up with positions to suit their own ends. Tina, we are saying into ezaba credible and acceptable gate. Let's have electrical engineers, experts in the field. Let them go and do their own investigations or survey or fact finding. Let them present a report. I can a report evela ku Minister of Energy, kumbe evela ku ZETDC. Let's have a qualified and an informed opinion about that power station. My brother here says, kukhulunywa ngo Unit 7. Ngapha kuthiwa lina decommission. Ama-fossil fuels lokhu esebenza ngale ku Unit 7. That's a very strong point. So kuyatshengisa ukuthi probably sincerity kasilayo. Kasila sincerity on the reasons why that station must be commissioned. Some of us believe ukuthi vele khona ukubypassa i-city council, ukubypassa ama-residents, ukubypassa ama-owners, ukubypassa ama-relevant stakeholders. Kwenza sibe le suspicion ukuthi there is a sinister underhanded intention. Mina lami sibili for sentimental value purposes, I would say, even if that power station is not producing anything, I challenge her. It's a symbol. It's a symbol of pride for us. Yes. Then when we talk about power, my brother here talked about a blanket mine leo khulunywa ngayo. Ile total of 3 hectares of solar fields. Asuka lapho siyachaya parking art. That whole mine, a blanket mine, is even producing more than its own needs. I'm told the city seller is this. So as the way forward, if we leave that thing, nothing actually we rehabilitate. Njengoba idili le India lingacaci, idili le Botswana lingacaci, how it ended. Kungangcono sithi look for another renewable alternative source of energy. Asikhulumeni a solar field. Thina as council we can provide land. Sifake whether it's 10 hectares of land, sifake ama-solar fields on la, and leave that one for sentimental purposes and for our own pride. Thank you.
Ngithanda ukubonga abakhokheli be-BPRA, Dokotela Malinga, abakhokheli bakobulayo khuluma Mrs. Chabalala for organizing such a beautiful meeting. I'm happy today that sifaka amakhanda sonke nini lasibiza lathi thino MP. Sisijala ukusalela endabeni eziningi ezinje. Kuqhakathekile ukuthi sifaka amakhanda together siyakhubulayo wethu. I will challenge councillor bethu khathesi thina besilalele njengoba MP okufunwa ngabantu. Abantu basikhulumela bakufunayo. Councillor, next time make sure ukuthi kuba lama agreement when you have such issues. I'm actually worried ukuthi khathesi awula muntu okwaziyo i-agreement between i-BCC lezes ukuthi i-pattern phakathi. Nobody knows. Now that it's all decommissioniwe, what are the implications ku contract yona leyo ekhona? We don't know, all of us. So it's very, very, very key ukuthi nxa kulama agreements amanje wafakeni phambi kwethu sonke, phambi kwabantu. Akonti leza ama agreement afihliweyo. It's unfortunate ukuthi asila representative Zesa la. Now that so decommissioniwe into yethu liyana, what's going to happen to the infrastructure? Bazayidiliza na bafuna ukuyenzana. bafuna usiyakhela amanye ama-power stations now. Are they saying anything? Nobody is saying anything about it. No one is speaking to us about it. So as far as I'm concerned, I will alternative. So spoke with the commissioner. That's the whole meaning of this. Tinabanye looking forward to ukuthi industry lana ithunqe again. Sifuna ukubisa oToyota balungisa izimota la. VW eBelmont abantwana bethu bathola imisebenzi. Which investor can come kungala magets? Wobulawa. No one is going to come. That's a very slow problem. Ungakhangela price magets from December last year. Like $20 bekunika 145 units. That's $20 after New Year is kunika 75 units. Very, very expensive. We don't know what imbebaza compensate la abantu abayakho unit 7 lo 8, we don't know. Kade sokuthi commissioner na suspect ukuthi kulomuntu olunguzile indawo la. Kulomuntu oyileyo indawo la. But let's protect what belongs to us. They cannot say that thing cannot be refurbished because already bakhuluma ukuthi kungaba lo partner wefuna ukubancedisa ukurefurbisha that thing. That thing is refurbishable. I agree with ubabe lapho uthe kumele sidinge our own engineers. Bakhangela into lana basinike their own opinion engasiyo yabantu laba bafuna uzosithathela into zethu. Umuntu akathi ufuna ukuthathela ulutho akunika opinion uphinde uvume futhi. Does not make sense. Let's work up. That thing, I'm telling you, there are so many investors that are interested in refurbishing and partnering with City Council. That's why City Council this time. That's why we want to pay electricity. And I believe with City Council, it won't be that expensive. This hospital cannot afford to pay because our tariffs are peso. They are busy trying to go off the grid. I was speaking to Administrator Whitestone, a school. The school cannot afford to pay because it's dura. I was doing school visits at Master Hillside Primary School, low headmaster with Tensen. They are of the same opinion. They cannot afford They are trying to find ways of going off the grid, all because of these tariffs that are being imposed on us. So let's take over our power station. So what councillor said, TV. I'm happy with this SIT, their televisor, these meetings. We wanted to articulate exactly all Kulunga Abadal. Don't go there and change. We are watching you. Silikangeli. Bazali asithatheni lutho lethu. Siyabonga.
Chairman, I think the first problem that we probably have before we figure out my recommendations, since this is my first time to speak, is that if you look at us here, I was thinking coming to this meeting. Why? Because Bulawayo has got 12 MPs, BPRA, and also ama senators. We have got 29 councillors, BPRA again. Basically, in number, I'm thinking all those people were supposed to be here because this is a very, very important issue that we are talking about. Also, a trivial issue we are talking about Bulawayo, and I think all the MPs, all the senators, all the councillors were supposed to be here. Sonke sikulume sibonisane as a family together. I don't think by referring, because in abantu we sit councillors, I think we are trivializing this issue. Must refer this issue to councillors. This is now a Bulawayo issue. It's a multi-parent issue. It's a national issue that we are talking about. So let's try to come together as a family, because our MPs, most of the times when these things happen, they start in parliament. The government, whenever it wants to take something, they first create umthetho to take over that thing. Zesa Act, Zino Act, when they wanted to take over Amadem Zonke, they had to create izina act so that they could govern amanzi like across the country. So some of these things we also have to press isikakulu ama-MPs ethu. Let's move away from political parties. I think if ama-MPs, imagine if all the MPs in Matabeleland were going to sit down and say, my daughter, this is what we're going to do in parliament to fight for this thing as Zesa. I'm quite sure that even the government was going to be moved. But the fact that whenever these things happen, you would find that maybe 2 or 3 MPs are going to raise this thing in parliament. And our numbers, they matter whenever we are pushing anything, whether ground or even in parliament. So I think we need to come together. Even those councillors that we have who come from even the ruling party, it's no longer a partisan issue. It's now an issue of Bulawayo. Let's come together and reason. Normally, take off our jackets, reason together, because we are now pushing what? A Bulawayo agenda. So that is what I think we should do CCR Pambi. And I also think even Mayor, the town clerk, the chamber secretary were supposed to be here. Because some of the questions we can't even answer them, because when alabana councillors come and go, but when alabana abantu bayabekona, as long as the council is still there. Then way forward. I'm thinking there was a time when I asked town clerk, I don't know how far it is, and he said to me monopoly which was given to Zesa as the sole generator of electricity was taken away from them, which basically means we can now a generator on electricity. So what it means, if that is the case, I see any reason, because last time it was difficult to take over that power station because the monopoly to generate electricity was solely given to Zesa. Now that the monopoly was taken away from Zesa, we can take away that power station, generate electricity, even if it means it is going to run maybe for a year or 2. It's still fine, while we are looking for other sources of electricity. Not only the issue of electricity. If you check, most of the times, not because city council cannot pump water, but being. So if you are to take that power station, the first thing that we have to make sure that we do is to make sure that our pumps have got enough electricity to make sure that they pump water. Issue you've got amanzi, but I love power just because you are against. So I think we can, even if we are it's going to run for 20%, it's fine, but it will be enough for what? For our pumps, at least so I'm proposing let's take the power station ingaze at 10% or 20%, but especially when it comes to pumping water. That is my proposal.
Yebo ngithanda ukulibonga ngelanga lanamuhla ngeengagement esibelayo. I would like to believe ukuthi we've achieved the objectives because we've established on the issue of ownership, we've gathered the views, we've come up with an action plan. So right now I would like to encourage us all to say we have an action plan, but let us remember that we as the councillors, fellow councillors who are not here, as the MPs, fellow MPs who are not here, residents, leaders and others that are not here, and the residents of Bulawayo at large, we are the actors for the action plan. We cannot have an action plan and leave it in this room. Let us go forward and take the issue up. I would love to hear the issue in the next full council meeting, the next parliament. Let us act on the action plan. Everyone who is here, let us even encourage others that are not here